Good afternoon, everyone. This is Queenie Clem with Queenie's Book Talk and Reviews, and I am your literary ambassador. And today I have a guest on my channel. Please introduce yourself.
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Lawanda Marrero, author and publisher. I do have a coaching company, and I'm just here today to share some of my material. And I thank you very much, Miss Queen, for having me on.
You're welcome. Now tell me, Miss Lawanda, what is your genre and what attracted you to that genre?
Okay, so this genre right here, it's Marie's Treasure Chest. And actually, I'm not the author of this book. This is my mother's book. She had made this big, huge book that she had been working on 30 years before she passed away. And so I really feel like that was my job as part of my inheritance, is to finish this book for her. And so it's called Marie's Treasure Chest because it has a lot of little nuggets, little things that you do to kind of check yourself. I'll say a self-check, it's like we call them the qualities like authenticity, compassion, education, love, truth. And she has like 23 of these quotes, and so I put them all together. She pulled pieces together from her travels around the world, things that her mom said to her, things that she learned to say to herself, and we put it together in Marie's little treasure chest. So what I'd like to do is maybe read you about the author, who she was, and then just one of her quality nuggets, if that will be okay. Okay, so about the author. Marie Simmons was born in 1936 in St. Louis, Missouri, where her African-American family struggled with many of the problems resulting from racism, poverty, and inadequate education. Marie is the youngest of 13 children and the first in her family to graduate from college. She earned a master's degree in social work from Washington University. She held a variety of professional positions, including the director of social services at UCSF for 12 years, where she was also an assistant professor in the Department of Pediatrics. During a 2-year sabbatical from her directorship, she developed and facilitated a cultural awareness and race relations education program for the UCSF campus, faculty, staff, and students. She has more than 40 years experience working as a psychotherapist, family counselor, and administrator, consultant, teacher, and researcher. She has written a number of professional papers and lectures. Ms. Simmons was married briefly and raised many children for many years. She assisted many adult children to grow up by teaching the art of gentle self-discipline. She was raised Baptist, but always believed that the spirit is the universal. She has been a seeker of all her life and has studied many religions, ranging from Christianity to Hinduism to Buddhism and everything in between. That's true. She was surprised to discover that in truth, all these disciplines are saying the same thing. We are all one. We should love one another as ourselves. She is convinced beyond her doubt that there are many roads to the mountain, but only one top, and that top is love. She asked God to teach her to love indiscriminately and unconditionally. The first lesson of love taught her was that it is not personal. For the past 10 years, she had been involved in an intense physical and mental experience of a spiritual transformation, which has led to the writing of this book. So I watched her spiritual journey, and she really did believe that there was many ways to the mountaintop. That was different, unlike me, me being like Christian. It was very difficult sometimes being raised by her, because she did experience a lot of things that, that I just didn't believe. But, I'd seen these things around me. And so when I'm looking at what her other book is called, My Life, Nothing Personal, and when it kind of talks about Who Murdered Marie, when I'm kind of looking from that aspect, sometimes I really believe just watching her invite all these different kind of religions and things into her life, kind of took a process on a toll on her, because for the last 10 years of her life, she had trouble leaving her bathroom. It was always a meditation type of period. So, but the one thing that she was able to complete and work on consistently was this book of hers, you know. And so I want to share what she said with you about solitude.
Okay.
If you're lonely, when you're alone, you're in bad company. Marie Simmons, that's her quote. Loneliness is the poverty of self. Solitude is the riches of the self. That's by May Sarton. I never found the companion that was so companionable as solitude. That was by Thorex. So most of my life, I've been a very social person who enjoyed being with other people. I hosted and attended many parties, was frequently surrounded by friends and family, including groups of children and animals. Uncharacteristically, for many years, I have spent most of my time alone, deeply consumed by the process, which is what she had called it. During this time, I considered external demands for my attention to be distractions. I quickly became impatient with telephone calls, which extended beyond 5 minutes, and could hardly wait to return to my obsession, which had become my form of meditation. It often lasted as long as 15 hours or more. I remember hearing a story about a meditator complaining to his teacher about people walking over his feet during meditation practice. His teacher said that if he were truly focusing on his meditation, he would have not been bothered by the person walking over his feet. At the time, I wondered, how was it possible for one to be so deep in meditation? And now I know. I felt that I was still in the world, but not of it. With this experience, I have become equally comfortable in the worlds of solitude of social settings, but my preference leans towards being with myself. I know with new certainty that it is not the world that sustains me. It does not define who I am, nor does it determine my worth or well-being. I have re-entered the world with gusto by becoming a foster parent once again. I am surrounded by people, activities, noise, and external demands. However, I am practicing being centered in myself while in the eye of the storm and listening to the quiet voice within. Guided by this voice, I am amazed at my increasingly calm acceptance of what is. I am less burdened with the illusion of my responsibility for changing anyone or anything. I have found solitude to be my road to peace. And so just kind of knowing her and watching her withdraw was difficult. It was one time, and what this process was like a blowing process, you know, where she would deep breathe and just blow, and it just took so much of her time. In fact, one time I was driving down the freeway. I was in Marin County because we lived in Marin County, but I was driving down the freeway and I looked over, and Lord and behold, that was her driving, blowing, doing this process. You know what I'm saying? And I was just so concerned for safety. So I grew weary watching her withdraw, watching her have a problem being able to kind of leave her house sometime. It was very difficult process to watch how she had just like kind of went into herself. And I'm a strong believer, if you invite so many spirits into yourself, that it starts to take over. Now, you know, believe whatever you're gonna believe. But I'm a firm believer you have to choose one. You can't choose everything and pick and scot from it, because I think that causes confusion in your mind, in your heart, in your life. And I kind of think that's kind of some of the stuff that happened. But I seen at the end of her life how she returned, you know. And what was so special about her is she was my escape from St. Louis. You know, I talked previously in previous interviews about being molested as a child by my uncle. And she just happened to be in St. Louis on one of her visits. And she's like, who wants to go to California? And I raised my hand like, I do. Now, before I knew it, I was on a train to Fresno, California. I love trains, by the way, because they remind me of I'm escaping. I'm moving towards something. I'm moving away from something. And, you know, she raised me. And, I was a very difficult kid that I look back on because I had so much hurt and turmoil and I wasn't going to say anything. I never divulged to anyone the things that happened to me as a kid. And, some boyfriends, and that ain't good because, they use those things against you. But I was really like 40 years old, close to when I really started talking about it, writing about it. And then had to go back and do research in the family. And like I said, often I find myself visiting that little place of Alice, but I've had to grow up, which Alice is my little pseudo name, but I've had to grow up, and she was one of the most influential people in my life. In fact, I grew up and kind of followed her footsteps, into therapy, social work, and that type of thing. But I really didn't know how I was going to manage without her, because she was always that one stable force. And, just the interaction between us the last day that I saw her, I was talking to her and I tried to put like she was having people come and they were saying goodbye, and she was saying goodbye her way, because she knew she was going to pass away. In fact, her statements were, well, if I go, I'm okay with that. I have lived a long life, I'm good, because she had lung cancer, and at her age, they wanted to break through her ribs, and she wasn't having it. That was too much for her. And so that last day, I tried to put a wrap over her, because this is a woman, when people come, she's very dignified in terms of being presentable. She didn't want it. She was okay with her gown. So that was my first sign that, like, bam, because, I think she knew me well to know that I kind of follow signs. I'm a slow learner, but when I figure things out, I figure them out. And so she didn't want that. And so I kind of wrapped it around my shoulders, and I'm just kind of having basic conversations with her. And she's saying, Lawanda, you do know what's happening, right? And this is her trying to take care of me. But she already knew me from a little kid. She knew how I was. So this was her trying to take care of me. And I'm saying, yeah, I understand what's happening. Whether I really, really did or not, I said, yes, I understand what happened, and so just being able to hug her and hang around her that day. But that was the last day I ever actually saw her, because, I had grandkids that I was taking care of, and I didn't want to bring them to the house because kids are loud. So when I called her on the phone the next day, she was like, just talking to her, and she says, Lawanda. And when she called me Lawanda, I knew that she was really speaking. She says, Lawanda, I want you to take care of the children, and then I want you to do what's next. So, of course, I'm a backwards thinker. It took me a while to figure out what that do what's next was. But you know what that do what's next was? It was to publish her books, because nobody except me and the ghostwriter really had privy to the information, and I did face a lot of hardship with my family about publishing her books. You know what I'm saying? Just doing this. But I know that's what she was saying to me. Do what's next. And so I feel good in the aspect that I did do it. I didn't do it alone. I did it with my ghostwriter, who had known me since I was 6th, 7th, 8th grader. And she became good friends with my mom. And she worked on her with her books. So she knew the ins and outs of everything and assisted me in actually doing this task. So it was difficult. I miss her a lot, but I know that all she tried to do and all that she did lives through me. And I'm just glad to know that she lived long enough to see the changes, because, kids oftentimes put parents through a lot of hardship, especially, when they've got a lot of trauma going on and they don't communicate with the parents. And what happens with kids who got trauma? They grow up. That don't mean the trauma go away. They just grow up, So me getting a education, a master's degree in marriage and family therapy, and going in that direction, it helped me to be able to start that healing process and really kind of look at those things in my life that I'm blaming other people for, but yet I'm participating in. So I had to get rid of some things that about myself in order to grow. And it is difficult because you get accustomed to thinking one way or holding on to something, but you need to let that little something go that you're holding on to so that you can start to walk into your new life. And so she got to see that transformation. She got to see me walk the master's degree stage. She got to wrap my degree and all of that. And so I just felt like I right the wrong that I had done and I had caused. But she always told me, Lawanda, it had to play its course out. You know, so I had a lot of people. She provided a lot of people in my life to kind of help me and assist me. It was like 5 social workers. I didn't tell them nothing, but guess what? When I started my healing process, I could hear those voices and those things that they were saying to me. Now they were useful. It appeared that they came in my ear and went out, but it was useful. I wasn't ready to do that. I wasn't ready to hear that. I wasn't ready for that. But I'm so glad that sometimes God's allowed people to come and feed us in our life. And even though we can't get it then, you know, it's just a seed. And eventually it can take a root in your life and it can begin to grow. And I think that's what happened.
Wow. Wow. What is one piece of wisdom Miss Marie instilled in you and is still relevant in your life today?
She always told me to love God, and see God in everywhere, in everybody, in myself, and in everywhere I go. You know, it's to love people, to be loving.
And what is the message you want readers to know or take away when they read this book?
I would like for people to know that, you know, she put her heart and soul into people, into loving people, into caring for people. And all of this research and her going through this and this being her life's work, I mean, it's worth people opening it up to just like read something on themselves and, you know, self-help, get out of your circumstances, you know, and also, it's what we call our inheritance. I call it the inheritance because, you know, a lot of times people can leave people money and stuff like that. But when you can really leave a legacy about something about yourself that's in writing, that's in a publication, now that's an inheritance. When I can open up this book and I can learn more about me, or I can learn more about faith, or I can learn more about accepting myself, if I can learn more about how to trust, if I can learn how to be forgiven, you know, how to have gratitude, man, because sometimes we don't think about those things. We need to be able to tune in, get in touch with it. And so this is a great book for people just to get in touch and in tune with themselves.
What did you learn while writing this book?
What I learned about when I wrote this book and I finished it is that I have value. I have value. I have purpose.
Wow. Wow.
You know, and to see the reflection of how God sees me. You know, stop being so judgmental of myself. So it's like, I think part of the problem, Miss Queen, is I don't take the time to stop and celebrate my victories. Just like being a part of 10 books, you know, have I stopped to celebrate that really? No. On to my next project, you know, and it's like, okay, so you got your bachelor's degree. Oh, on to my next project to get the master's degree. On to this, on to that, you know, and so here I am now. I'm 63 years old and I'm tired. I am pretty tired, and I'm trying to hit the reset button on my life. Start eliminating a lot of stuff that's on my plate that I don't need, you know, and try to pay special attention to the gifts that God has given me. You know, I think what a friend of mine, Rachel, in fact, you know, Rachel Beals, you know, we went to college together and we often co-author together. And she talked to me the other day and she's like, you know, your job was not your retirement plan. You were supposed to go in there and get your internships and get licensed and get on. And so it's like sometimes the goal can be so long. The journey can be, you know, you're just striving, and it's not something you get to in a couple of years. It takes time. And so it took time to get a bachelor's, to get a master's, to get all those hours, those 3,000 hours in. And so sometimes you can get lost in the journey. and I felt like, oh my God, I woke up, I'm 63 years old. I am lost in the journey. What the heck am I supposed to be doing? But even though I didn't feel like I was right on track, God has still helped me and supported me by, look, I don't have to get ready to write the books. I've written them. So now what are you doing about it? And so I'm just on a new overhaul. I'm like helping other writers, coaching them. I love it so much. It's like I've got this gift to be ability to see a story in something, and help it come alive by the words of their mouth. Because I start asking them questions, I'm like, I don't see all that in your book, in your manuscript, So I love it, and I think it's having, like you do, you present a platform for people to have a voice. I'm supposed to be presenting a platform for people to be able to get that stuff out of them, because guess what? That stuff that comes out of them is healing for other people and also them.
Okay, the next title you wrote was Whole Again. Briefly describe this book to us.
Oh my goodness. Whole Again. Let me tell you that. This was the battle of my life. I've been a Christian a many years. I've been sitting under leadership. In my church is usually a church, it's like a training church where, a lot of the women have gone off to marry pastors, or they're missionaries, or they're first ladies, or, field workers, right? And the men have all even opened their own churches. So, it's like that, it's a training ministry. And so during the COVID situation, that was difficult. Our complete church community got rocked. You know how they say you cut off the head, you kill the body. And so this book was about the church struggles from the leadership coming down, and me finding out whose side I was on. And I had to choose that I'm on the Lord's side. I had to stay on the Lord's side with the situation. And that means going a little bit against what you might call leadership or their ideal of what was happening. Because, I think the biggest issue sometime now is people in an authoritative situation, they sometimes have trouble receiving help. And I look at this like this. If I'm pouring into somebody's life, and I know what I'm pouring into them, if they're getting it, when I'm in trouble, guess where I want to go? I want to go to the people that I poured into. But unfortunately, Christianity ain't always like that. In fact, when I really need the pouring out on me, what I go somewhere nobody don't know my maracas or this tambourine or these praise dance flags, and to get what I need. And I think that we have to really learn that the ground is level at the cross, and we're all human, and we have these situations that go on, and we need to be able to get that help, accept help from people. And so this was a difficult time because my church, from the leadership, there was things going on. There was things being said. They were all kind of stuff going on. It got really messy. It just kind of broke us apart, And so I had to kind of write about that. It's really a deep book. And I just finished part 2 of it. I haven't finished, put it all together, but it's written. And I'm switching the whole thing to a daughter of Zion, because it kind of talks about kind of what happened, and what kind of ended up happening here is that my pastor ended up committing suicide. So you can only imagine what that could possibly do to the church and the believers. So one of the things is God took me through the process of it all, and wanted me to be able to write about it to help my fellow brothers and sisters out, not only in my own church, but in ministry. Just to be able to help share that for people to look for healing, because something like that could, even some of the parishioners can't make it back through, But I start thinking about the things that he said to me. Follow me as I follow Jesus. When I stop following the Lord, you need to get it out of here. So it was like crazy because everything that he had already talked to me, he had already spoken it years ago. And so I had to get to it, you know, and I'm not completely know if I'm completely over it because first it was my mom, my biological mom. First it was the auntie mother passing away, but that had been a few years. Then my biological mom passed away. Then my pastor just passed away, and then my stepmom passed away. It just got real crazy in my life, like a lot of grief, and I had to depend on God, and I still had to stand in this moment. And I had to stand not just for myself, I had to stand for other people because, you know, being a leader in the church, people need somebody to pray for them. People need somebody to love them. People need somebody to show them that you still have to be forgiving and not judgmental. We don't know what people are going through sometimes, and they don't know how to get out. And a lot of people think that death is the way out. So that's what they see that one was about. Let me see the page that I chose to read for you. I am a shadow light, daughter of Zion. Holiness or hell has been the foundation of my biblical teaching. Bishop Lee taught me I need Christ from a crisis. I was burdened with a heavy, grieving heart. The hallelujah fever had been restricted. I had to embrace my salvation and could no longer respond docility to authoritarians in the representation of Christ because I said so. I wanted my communion cup back. As I reflect, it sounds like I needed convincing of something, but that's not it. Seeds of discord had been sown and among the brethren, and I had no idea how things could be fixed. I just wanted God to fix it. Being a cliff diver and not a dweller, I'm sold out for Jesus all the way, just like Bishop Lee. The events that occurred solidified me no longer just being connected to the branch. I'm now rooted to the root of the vine. Sometimes I ask myself, was I held less accountable in my ignorance? I'm undeniably awake, and the urgency of what I learned quaked in me. Let's see what happens now. I trust you, God. And this is how my peace is restored. And the puzzle pieces of myself from my mindset, I grow embellished with applied learned knowledge given by you, Lord. I have been taught to rely on the word of God, and the stuff I heard was not godly or good. My core fabric had tears. This season has taught me to halt. There is no fake loyalty. No one is above the word of God, and God is love, and he never fails. There is no hierarchy of position in leadership, separation, or lack of expectations. Repentance is a ladder for all of our hearts. I had to ask myself, whose side you on, Lawanda? In this situation, you don't have to agree to disagree with the Bible only. By amen, my amens, hallelujahs, and thank you, Jesus, are newfound pearls. And they don't come cheap. They were blood purchased, bought with a price, and I am no longer casting them out there with such vocal ease. So that was about, hey, it's going down in the church. And the people are standing around me saying, hallelujah, thank you, Jesus. And that was the craziest stuff coming out of the person's mouth. I couldn't do that. I serve a living God. And I love my bishop. But he had always taught me that love covers a multitude of sin. So it's like Cubby. It don't talk about you. It don't degrade you. It don't say nasty things about you. He taught me that all these years that I've been with him. So when I seen things like that coming out of his mouth, and I seen him pulling the cover off people, I knew something was wrong. And not just because of that, but I am professionally trained in that area to notice these things. But he was such a hard person. He wouldn't let it He wouldn't let you do it. He wouldn't let you get in. He shut you down. Then to come down after the fact is when you find out there's medications he's taking and other things that people don't know. You know, these things could cause these kind of thoughts and all those kind of things. So it was just a difficult season. I wanted to run. I wanted to bury myself in the sand. But God said, no. You got to stand through this, because if you fall completely apart, what about those other people?
Mm-hmm.
And so that became of it. So part 2 will really talk more about the death in detail that I don't talk about in this book. It just kind of hits on the subject of things falling apart in the church, you know, because I was actually living this. At the time that this was happening, when we write this book, I was actually living it. So I think the book had already went to the publisher and everything whole again before the second part, which is the suicide, had happened. So it was a difficult journey, Queen. It was a difficult journey.
Yes. What is your testimony?
My testimony, and this is my real testimony. This is the core of it right here. I'm helping to clean up the mess I messed up. You know, I did a lot of stuff in the community. I sold drugs, sold me, did all the things. You know, I've seen people whose families were separated because of the stuff that I was doing. And God came and got me and saved me. Out of all these people, he saved me. When my mind and my brain was having conversations with each other, and I could see myself living another life, but had no idea how I would get there, and I thought I was crazy. He came and rescued me. So since he did that, my vow for God is, Lord, use me.
Mm-hmm.
Use me. If that means like missionizing, doing stuff for other people, stuff, then that's what I'm called to do. So even though I forget sometimes that my life belongs to him, because I get that driver's seat, I believe that's my purpose. I wake up sometimes and I'm telling you in the morning, I have to like put it all together. What's my name? What's my mind? What's this? Because I had brain surgery when I was very young. And then all the drugs and stuff that I did. Oh, you kidding? So my testimony is I belong to him, and he got a right to do with my life what he wants to do with it. And I'm trying to work every day to understand that and to build on that. And, you know, stop taking things personal, because a lot of times I feel like I'm attacked because of the favor of God. Because, you know, believe it or not, when God called you to do certain things, you write 10 books about this and you going through that. And my whole life is a miracle and the things that have happened to me. It's got to be him. He's got to have purpose for me. And I don't always know what that is. I can be honest about that. Like I'm in a real life transition right now where I know things got, like I said earlier, come off the plate, because I'm obviously a little distracted from what God is trying to get me to do, you know, and he has a way of kicking me out of some places to get me aligned with where it is he wants me to be. So right now I'm just like, okay, God, whatever you're doing, I'm on board. Just help me to do that. Send the people in my life to do that, so that I know I have limitations, you know, and I'm okay with my limitations. Okay, but if I got these limitations, who is supposed to help me here? Who is supposed to help me there?
Yep.
I'm proving him at his word.
So Whole Again is an anthology?
Yes, it was an anthology with Rachel E. Bills, and it was like 4 other authors in here, and 2 of these authors I think I coached in their book. And what was weird about it is that, shoot, you know how you're working with people. I think it's the other one, but right in the midst of trying to help other people write books, and you know, I think maybe that's the next book. I found myself in the same situations they were.
Mm-hmm.
It's a living testimony. But I do know if God did it for me, he'll do it for others too. You know, it's like we just have to find some tools to help us. You know, and God places those tools of change in our lives. You know, and it's not easy to change your life, but it's necessary.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So there is a part 2 to this book.
It is.
And when will it be released?
You know what? I'm gonna have to try to have this done 1st of January because the pieces are already written, but it's like taking it out of this part out of this book and make sure it's not repeated stuff in there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just working on those changes. But I'm hoping to, by the end of January, have it done, and it's gonna be the daughter of Zion.
Okay. Can you tell us a little about the cover of Hold again?
Well, you know, me and Rachel always worked on the covers together. We like talk about, you know, the covers, what we were trying to say. She get these visions, and I'm just very grateful that, you know, the cover is called a book of testimonies.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just kind of worked out really well because this was during the pandemic season, and people just had their pandemic situations that they were going through and that they wrote about. And so not only I'm an author here, it's like 5 other authors here, and it's some really, really great stories in here, you know, that the women have shared.
What inspired you to write your story in this book?
Because I needed an outlet for what I was going through. You know, and hey, I will be a testament that, man, writing, you get the stuff out of you because, like, you know, I maybe talked about it before. We have that emotional baggage, things that we carry around. We need to put that place in a physical containment, like put it in a book, a journal, or something. That way you can open up that window outside of you for new stuff. You know, and this was like really difficult for me. I was going through the pressure of something that is happening right now, and you do not have control of it. But I did have control of this pen. And so I just started to write it out, just write it all out, just get it all out of me with such honesty. Because one thing people want to be honest. If I'm telling you a story about what is happening in my life, it's not to make me look pretty or me look the hero. But hey, if it's dirt, it's dirt.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna put it down there. I've never, in any of my books I've written, I've left Lawanda's dirt out anywhere. Because that's how I heal. It says you overcome by your testimony. I was once there, but now I'm here. So I know what ugly looks like.
What is the key message you want readers to know from this book?
I think the key message I want people to know from this book is that you got to have a relationship with the Lord for yourself, or whoever it is that you say is your if some people say Allah, or whoever it is, you got to have a relationship for yourself, because when your leaders and people around you, you got to know the word and God for yourself. So you'll know that if this is off, if this ain't right, what change should I be making? Do I say amen? Don't you say amen? And you know what? It might have been a few years ago, I might have just kept on clapping like everybody else, you know? But people clapping, I'm like, I can't clap to that. I'm not standing up for God. Because this is nonsense. This is nonsense in my heart. How do I handle that? Do I have to like move myself away from the situation? Do I have to stand and fight in the situation? How can I? And a lot of times the only way that I can fight is with this pen, baby, this sword. Because you know they say do not rebuke an elder. So I'm not trying to rebuke nobody. And even when I tried to reach out with concern, shut me down. Got really upset with me. Took my communion cup. Everything. I call it my communion cup. You know? And I actually kept those text messages between myself and my bishop before he passed. You know, until God tells me what to do with them.
Wow. Wow. Okay, your next book is When the Vow Breaks. Briefly tell us about this book.
Oh my goodness. This book, girl, I'm telling you, this book was so exciting, Queen. And this is what it looks like when the vow breaks. Let me bring it over this way. You can see it. So it's got the rings on it. It's got the heart. And the tagline is serving when surviving when it don't last. Now, you know the Christian girls, when we go out and marry somebody and they the Christian, we expect it that it should be no problem, right? Because we married them, they're Christian, they love the Lord, right? We got to be careful with that. Those are some of the stories in his book about some powerful women who have been married to pastors and different people, and it didn't work out well. What was happening at the church wasn't happening in the home, and being that woman and afraid, just afraid to come out, But my story was one, it was like a two-part story because it had to deal with, unraveling myself in the marriage that I had. Now, you're going to get this hot off the press because most people don't know this, but the man that I was married to, who's now dead, he was HIV positive, and I knew that when I married him, but I really did believe that God would not let me get sick. I didn't get sick. So it talks about that kind of relationship, and I have to kind of stop and think at this year, is that a little bit loathing to yourself, because I had kids and all that kind of stuff. So I had to deal with that. And it kind of talks about, how we split up. And that's a problem. Somebody, if you give all that, you shouldn't be splitting up. I didn't put my life on the line, right? But I have a little piece of this that I want to read from there, and then we can kind of go through that one. Okay, it says, I had visions and dreams and nightmares about my husband and vulgar party scenes. He was a limo driver, by the way. I kept trying to reach him and pull him out, but he was distant and unresponsive. I would wake up drenched in his sweat, screaming, "Puppy." He would comfort me in my distress and let me tell me everything was going to be all right, even though I knew something was wrong and hadn't been right for a long time. So as the thoughts of my betrayal and loneliness stepped out of my thought life into reality, it was apparent that I had lost what I believed to be my great love to another or numerous women. I was not keeping count of anything but my pain of rejection. Once again, I was mad at the world. I made inappropriate, culturally insensitive remarks to express my hurt. Vince had gotten involved with a Latino woman. I was not sure her ethnicity, but in that instant of pain, it was all the same. I got up enough courage to call him, leaving him a message, shouting like a crazy woman. Your girlfriend's got kids, let them be your new kids. Or hell, let her give you some. Go all the way Mexican and leave us niggas alone. I was angry and I let my emotions get the better of me that time, but I knew that one day it would stop. Today was the day the fairy tale ended for me. And so I first met my husband when I was a young girl in the Tenderloin. He was dealing, I was dealing. And I was just looking for some companionship. So we hooked up a couple of times, but we hadn't seen each other over the years. And so he was a friend. I think that's the most important thing about it, is that he was a friend. I decided to go ahead and marry him, though it does talk about in his books that I had doubts in the beginning, and he was very, very good to me and my children until he kind of left the marriage. But then he was still really good to my kids. You know what I'm saying? And so I didn't feel the need to kind of get in the way. And how some women, since he's not their bio father, they would stop him from having a relationship with him and the grandkids, but that was not who I was. And I didn't think that was fair because he had certainly put in his time. But what I really did learn in this relationship is that he really helped me in the beginning learn to love and understand what love looked like. And I really took care of him in the end when he needed somebody's love to be there. So that was our journey. And then it also talks about in St. Louis, my mom, my stepmom, and my stepdad, how my mom and my stepmom were best friends. They figured it out that they wasn't against each other, but they both had kids by this man. And so when my kids are at your house, I want to be treated right. When your kids in my house, I want to be treated right. So they learn how to merge their friendship and take care of the children. And it just worked out. And that's what's so important, I think, about divorce, is that it just freaking messes up the family. Also, you take, my family took time getting to know him and having a relationship with him. And that's in any marriage. It's just not that person that the person is married to, that their spouse. But what about the 20 years of getting to know the family members and all of that? And do I have to let that go? No. Mm-hmm. So, I got a little statement about that. I call it, where is it? I call it a coin spent is coin earned. It's like, and what I mean, like a jewel earned. And what that means is I spent my time, which is my coin, getting to know somebody, investing them, right? I have a good relationship with them. That's a jewel that I earned, right? Mm-hmm. Because y'all ain't making it no more. Well, I can't be somebody's friend or still be somebody's mother-in-law. That really disturbs me, that we got things that backwards, that people don't understand that once people have children together, you're family for life. Mm-hmm. And how do we come together and make that kid comfortable on both sides of their family so they don't feel like they have to choose. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So this book was really about how divorce can just destroy a family, and the importance of looking for a way in and a way out. So I believe that I earned a testimony in that marriage because I stuck with it. Even his family and everybody, like, you're just pining. I'm not pining. God had told me this was not a commitment, Lawanda. It's a covenant. And so my husband tried to go divorce me. I tried to divorce him. Hell, we even went down to the courthouse hand in hand to divorce each other. But they kept on the pay. They just wouldn't do it. It just didn't happen. And so I believe that one thing is when we were married, the preacher said 3 times, there's no room for divorce. There was no room for it. And that was difficult because we were separated quite a while. But that means I couldn't go out and have boyfriends, right? I couldn't do that. Not if I'm in a covenant. Didn't matter what he did. God told me what I would not allow to do. And so it was difficult. Because, I wanted companionship. I wanted friendship. I wanted love. I wanted to get even. But God had me stand on his word. And he got me, he validated me just like he said he would. Because when my husband returned, he returned, he needed to be taken care of. And he sat there and apologized and told me all that he had been through. And hearing God say, go home to your wife, but he couldn't, he got lost. And it cost him his life. His sickness progressed. He was 47 years old and looked like an 80-year-old man. But I still realized how much I loved him. When you care about somebody, really, it's not all about what they do to you or it's unconditional. And even though you might not be able to live together anymore or be together in a romantic way, there should still be some sense of a foundation of love. So I'm currently working on Let Him Tell It. I told you about that last time. I just finished it up, just got to add the conclusion. But I figured out that I Let Him Tell It, it spoiled off of the vow when the vow breaks. Because when Rachel brought this ideal to me, I said, Rachel, that sounds good, but I want to hear something from some men. We always hear stuff about women and what they go through, but I want to hear from a man, because divorce impacts them. And so it got extended to more than just divorce with men, but it got extended to men in prison, men who have done some time in prison. So I got a couple of divorcees, I got a couple of prison guys, and then I wanted to be able to tell something from my husband. And I can't, Lord and behold, my son had a deathbed interview with him that I didn't even know about. So go hunt me. I'm like, send that thing to me. I hurry up, dictated it, put it on there, and for 4 months I couldn't touch it. I was emotionally impacted by it that I didn't understand how emotionally impacted by it I was.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I have just been able to complete that part of it. And so I'm hoping by the end of December that this one, let him tell it hits the public.
Now tell us about your publishing journey.
Well, I kind of got into this publishing journey fooling with Rachel. I love Rachel, even though I was the first one to publish a book, when she admired that, and she ended up publishing a book, and then I hadn't written in many years, and she came back and got me. I want you to join this with me. And so I was following her footsteps. I heard you tell people earlier I told you I'll be limited, but I'll follow in people's footsteps. So when she did her publishing company, I opened up mine, and I figured out hers was more doing formatting and things like that. And mine was more about coaching people.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's it. I've coached maybe 4 or 5 people so far, and I got a new prospect. So I'd like to do more of that. If people want me to do their publishing, I can, but it's more about me helping them to get themselves ready for publishing.
Okay. What is your writing process like?
You know what? I'm gonna just tell you. You see this old handy dandy phone right here? I just get started. I have the memo pad on here. I'm just be honest with you. I have my memo pad on there, and it has a voice thing right there. So sometimes things are going on, and I'm just talking. You heard, but I have to go back and correct it. And a lot of times, God, write this down. All right, I don't know what it pertains to. I have no idea what that is for. And so some documents, sometimes I just have a lot of stuff written on the document. I don't even know what it's about. But then it's like, oh, that piece go with that piece. That piece go with that piece.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really that I can just sit down and write something all the way out. It comes in pieces. I have to keep a bag. Sometimes I have to keep a pad by my bed, because I may wake up and start doing that. I find myself waking up in the night typing on this thing, and then I just email it to myself, and then I put it in the Word document.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like that. It's just a gift from God, but it helps me so much on the inside. And then I believe that it's helpful for other people. Because when somebody, hear from somebody who was really damaged or who was really being very real about that and the process, I think that help people get over some of the stuff they going through. And that is the most important thing and people know that they're not alone. They're not alone, and it's possible.
Right. So where can readers find you and your books?
Okay, so there are 3 of my books 2 of the books are on Amazon.com, and that is My Love Was Blind. I think the next season we're going to talk about that. And then my mother's book, All My Life, Nothing Personal, Neither Is Yours. But if you really want to probably get books from me, I do have my own catalog season. So it's just emailing me.
Mm-hmm.
And people can email me at Marrero, MARRERO .Lawanda@gmail.com. That's one of the fastest ways to get to me, or give me a call, 510-593-5367. Either, you tell me which book you like, what you're interested in, and, I ship it off. I like to ship books off on Fridays. And usually most of the books are $15, with like a $3 charge for just the postal handling. Except for All My Life Is Nothing Personal, because that one's a really huge book. It's 699 pages, so it's $25. But it is available for $1 on Amazon through Kindle. So,
Wow. Okay. Is there anything else you would like to add before we close?
I would like to add that, I am available for public speaking, coaching, answering questions. I'm just available for people. about all of these books, all my experiences. I think it's important that I make myself available for folks who might be interested in learning more about me, or learning more about books, or learning more about themselves, because I'm also a therapist too.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming in today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I really appreciate you having me. And I look forward to the December issues that you're going to bring out.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, this is Queenie Clem with Queenie's Book Talk and Reviews. Happy reading. Bye, y'all.